So I could just rip, but it usually goes better if you ask me questions and I rip off of that. So anybody who has a question, just go to this microphone here in the center and speak it. And the wisdom shall be forthcoming. Is that on? Okay.
I noticed in the One Piece dub that the new Luffy sounds a lot like the old Luffy. Was there any particular reason that y'all stayed with the original kind of style of the voices?
My guess is that both of us were basing it off the Japanese voice. When we did the initial auditions, there was an initial voice that I tried, and it went to the Japanese, and they wanted it closer to the Japanese voice, so we altered it a little bit and sent it back, and that was the voice that they went with. It was supposed to be gruffer, so I made it gruffer. And so that's how I ended up with mine, but I haven't even heard the 4Kids Luffy, so it certainly is not through listening to that.
I wanted to get into voice acting as well. How did you get into it, and what advice would you give people for getting into it?
I actually kind of lucked into it, which is the answer you're going to get a lot, unfortunately. Knowing somebody really helps. I knew Laura Bailey, she was my best friend, and she brought me up and introduced me and got me an audition. Generally speaking, you cannot be an anime voice actor without living in one of the cities that the anime voice acting is done. So that would be Texas, you'd have to live in Dallas, in LA, or a little bit in New York, and maybe Vancouver. And once you get there, ideally you would already be an actor, because that helps a lot with doing theater acting or film acting or any other kind of voice acting, getting a little bit of training, you can take classes, that kind of thing. And my suggestion would always be to get an agent. I don't know that everybody agrees with me, but I would say get an agent and do some voice acting on your own outside of the dubbing industry and just try to work your way in that way.
Hi. My question is, are you a Roy and Riza fan?
I totally am. I'm a complete romantic, and the fact that they never really got together, like, never kissed, really.
The ending was disappointing.
Yeah, I was disappointed. But they totally did. You know they did.
Would you consider there are some actors and actresses who, when they're doing the voice, they kind of really get into it by like moving their hands and doing stuff like that, and like in behind-the-scenes stuff for movies, you see them doing that a lot. Have you ever like moved your hands or done something like funny while?
Every time. Yeah, I think in general we all do to some degree or another. I'm a little bit lower key about it. I'm always doing whatever they're doing on the screen. Even if they're eating, I've got my hand up to my mouth. If they're throwing something, I'm throwing something. I don't get into it as much as Laura Bailey, who has knocked down microphones before. We all have our varying degrees of clumsiness, I suppose. Mas? Questions? I'm Colleen Clinkenbeard.
Out of all the roles that you've done, what do you think is your favorite and your least favorite?
It's so hard to answer. I have different favorites for different things, you know? Luffy is one of the most fun characters I've ever done. He's just so crazy, and I love playing stupid. And he's not a stupid guy, but he does a lot of stupid things and says a lot of stupid things, so that's fun. Riza, I loved just because of how stoic she was. Yuko, I love because she's so easy. Oh, she's so easy. I could do that voice for 8 hours at a time. And then I have a couple of characters on Shin-Chan that I like, just because they're, I mean, you have to love Shin-Chan. Shin-Chan, for those of you who haven't seen, is on Adult Swim. It's a little bit dirty, so you have to be old enough to watch it. But basically, it was given to us from the Japanese, and they said, just scrap the script, make up your own script, make it crazy. They wanted something Simpsons, South Park-esque. And so we've got writers who are just coming up with stuff. And I play a gay little boy and an infant. And both of those are a lot of fun. You can line up, I don't mind. Alright, so I know that within this room there has to be a lot of fangirls, especially to Ed. Of course. So, okay. Anyways, I personally am a Gene Havoc fangirl, and Mike appreciates art. Yes, there's that little squeal every time he comes on the screen, you know. But are you a fangirl to anyone in any of your series? I gotta tell you, I'm in love with Holic right now. It might just be because we're doing it right now, but I have personally only witnessed that kind of voice acting genius twice. It would be Laura Bailey doing Sana in Kodacha was just brilliant, awe-inspiring. Like you just watch it and you're like, I cannot believe she did that. And Todd in playing Watanuki. He's here at this con, and he's going to be at the premiere for Holic tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Ballroom A. We're showing 3 episodes. He's the funniest thing you've ever seen. He's just so funny, and he'll do it all in one take. Really got to see it. So, I'll finger out a little bit. Don't tell Todd.
When you read the script before you do it, like, you read it and you see what the character does, have you ever gotten annoyed or like shocked by what you end up, like, say, Fullmetal Alchemist, something shocked you that Risa does, or funny, or you get like annoyed? Does any of your characters that you voice like annoy you with something that they do?
All of my friends will tell you I'm very much not with the bathroom humor. So anytime that comes up, and it does, especially in Shin-Chan, there will be whole episodes about Maso being constipated. And yeah, anytime I have to do any of that, my director snickers behind his hand and says, just do it. So, a little bit.
I'm sorry, it's not a Funimation question, it's a personal. Your last name, Clinkenbeard, is that a German name? Because I tried to fathom it out. I couldn't know if I said it correctly or I said it offhand. If you could explain a little bit about the background of your last name.
Sure, actually, it's a pretty interesting background, I gotta say. It makes up for the fact that my last name is Clinkenbeard. It's actually Scottish, and my ancestors were Scottish terrorists who lived on top of a hill, and they would tie bells to their beards and run down and terrorize the villagers, rape and pillage and such, and so the Clinkenbeards were coming. I'm totally a pirate. Is that a question coming forward, or is he just coming to sit? Okay.
Really adding elsewhere.
Anybody? Hmm?
Two-part question. What are the challenges of being a voice actor, and what are the challenges of being an ADR director?
The challenges of being an ADR director are incredibly more challenging than the challenges of being an actor. A voice actor, you have the challenge of hurting your throat, which is career damaging. So you have to look after yourself a little bit more, and you have to be able to say no at times. There are parts that I should have turned down because they were so rough on my voice, they ruined me for other parts. Even doing Luffy for as many years as I'm going to be doing Luffy, I had to think about it really long and hard before I accepted, because my voice will be lower by the end of that series. So there's that. And then as a director, my challenge, my personal challenge, is not to kill anybody, and not to let myself get my blood pressure so high that I die myself. I actually take steps back from directing every now and again because I get so stressed out about it. I do producing as well. I'm a line producer, and that is much more geared toward my level of stress. Directing, you just have so many things that you have to keep straight, and if you're a perfectionist, it's really hard to do a dub well, just by virtue of it having been done already, and you already having a finished product that you're trying to put a new product into. So it's a little intensive, but I enjoy acting and producing a lot.
This is a question for the crossover between Tsubasa and Holic. I know that Yuko is very different, or portrayed somewhat differently in both series. In Holic, in Tsubasa, she's more of a control figure. She's helping the Tsubasa group.
She doesn't let go as much.
Yeah, and in Holic, she's rather more relaxed.
Right.
Was there any change in like how your voice acting went and how you went about with the play acting for that?
It really isn't. I think that even in Holic, she has that aspect to her, that authoritarian dictatorship in her, and it shows up every now and again when she's more solemn or explanatory. And that's just the section of her that I used in the Tsubasa sections.